Hi, everybody. Dan Illman, Mike Beer, the DRF race of the day for Friday, July the 1st. Race number 6 at Woodbine. It's the Grade 3 Dominion Day. $150,000 is the purse. We're going a mile and an eighth on the Tapeta surface. And this race kicks off a 20-cent pick four. Now, of course, 4th of July weekend is right around the corner, and Daily Racing Form has its 4th of July sale up now. Save up to 50% off select handicapping products. Shop.drf.com is where you need to go. Here's the field for the Grade 3 Dominion Day. The favorite in this race, Mike's the number 7, Artie Storm. And why not? Artie Storm has just been in razor sharp form right now. He's won 3 in a row.
Yeah, and came back off the layoff, I thought, with a really nice performance to win that Grade 2 race. Dan, he beat a couple of these rivals in that spot. He did get a perfect trip, and he was a good price that day, and you won't get quite as good a price in here. But I found this horse to be pretty hard to knock.
Scan the QR code on the entry card that you see right now for Race of the Day access on your mobile devices. Let's take a look at the Timeform US Pace Projector. No surprise in here that Mighty Heart is the expected speed. The Queen's Plate winner in 2020 has big early speed. Third last time out in the Eclipse. I guess that was kind of a disappointing loss.
I thought it was. He got his usual position on the lead that he likes last time, Dan, and he got that position because Frosted Over, who is second on your pace projector here, was just content to let Mighty Heart have the lead and track him around there to the top of the stretch. At the end of the day, Mighty Heart just wasn't good enough in that race, and he's going to have to do better this time.
A horse listed as a deep closer on your pace projector is the number 1 Talbea. Now, this is a filly going to be taking on the boys for trainer Mark Casse. She sold for $350,000 over the winter and made her first start in North America for Casse off a long layup. It was a visually impressive performance in an allowance race. Let's watch Talbea polish off the field at 9-2. And as you see, Mike, she's in behind horses right now. She's going to have to find somewhere to run. But once she does find somewhere to run, she does run. And she didn't break well in this race. She did a lot of good things once she got going.
Yeah, this is a good performance. Yeah, she totally blew the start in this race. But even after that, there wasn't really any point in the race where it didn't look like she was going to run really well in there. I don't know if you could say she was going to win, but she always traveled. She didn't get too far away. When they came into the stretch, it was just a question of whether she was going to get somewhere to go. And when she got somewhere to go, she won very impressively. I thought it's a little bit of a concern, Dan, because if you go back and you can basically just pick any one of her starts over in Great Britain and just watch it, she doesn't break from the gate basically in any of them. And she doesn't look like a particularly easy horse to ride, but man, she can run a little bit. If she gets a trip in this race, I think she can go with these horses.
And I think it's worth saying something that Casse is putting her in against the boys in a very, very tough field. Patrick Husbands takes the mount 10-1 on the morning line. Primo Touch is the number 2. This one's won 8 times in his career. In his most recent start, if you want to give him a mulligan, I guess you could. It was off a 6-month layoff. They sprinted him on the turf. I have a feeling they just wanted to give him a little bit of fitness. He's now should be fit with that race under his belt. The problem is he's facing a really tough bunch.
Yeah, he is. He's facing a really tough bunch, and he's doing it on what may not be his preferred surface, Dan. I mean, so far, all of his really good races have come on the turf. We'll see. He's going to be a really big price in this race, and he has a couple of figures that will give him a real chance in here. I think it's also worth pointing out that the 9 furlongs of this race is not going to be a problem for Primo Touch. So, I mean, there are things to like about him at a really big price in here.
Mark Casse also sends out the number 3 Skywire. It was nice to see Skywire come back running because this horse is a multiple graded stakes winner. He has some back class, and we're going to watch his most recent start. It was his first race in about 10 months or so, and there really wasn't a ton of pace on. They went 26 and change for the opening quarter, and Skywire had to come from out of it, and he looked good finishing it off. The 7th place finisher would come back to win an allowance on the turf with a 91 buyer.
This was a good performance for this horse who, really never got a campaign going last year, Dan. He was really good in 2020, winning a couple of graded races over this surface and doing it with competitive figures too. And for whatever reason, I guess something just went wrong with him last year. He came back off the layoff with a really nice performance. He's going to have to up his game a little bit to beat this field, but he's shown in the past that he can do that.
The number 4 War Bomber is a stakes winner going a mile on the turf, and maybe they just tried a little bit too long of a distance last time out in the valedictory at a mile and a half. He was up close to the pace. He got very tired. He was just pulling extremely hard in the early portion of that race and hard to settle. Now he's turning back to a distance where he might be more comfortable. The problem is he has to beat this field off of a long layoff.
Yeah, he's given away a little fitness, it feels like. And he's also just going to have to find a way to improve and probably improve quite a bit to beat this field. I do think he has some talent. It feels like he was a pretty sharp claim by these guys last summer, Dan. He came back and he was really impressive winning that Toronto Cup on turf. We'll see what he can do here off the left. He's another one. I don't think the distance is any problem for him. I just wonder if he's going to be able to improve enough to beat this field off the layoff.
The extremely popular Canadian Classic winner Mighty Heart is up next. He won this race, of course, in 2021. And last time out, we talked about it. It was the Eclipse Stakes. He was able to make the lead. He was confronted by Frosted Over on the turn. He wasn't good enough to fend off Frosted Over, and they both weren't good enough to fend off Artie Storm. If he can get to the lead, back down the fractions, he always has a puncher's chance, and you likely get a better price this time around.
Yeah, that's a very valid point, Dan. He's not going to be a super short price this time like he was last time. I don't know. I mean, I don't feel like it would be that hard to try to excuse that performance if you were inclined to do so. You know that this horse is good enough to win. It's just a question of whether he gets, you mentioned that he won this race last year. He did that with just the softest trip on the lead where nobody went after him. And in this spot, he has Frosted Over in here again. And it just feels like Frosted Over is going to be the one sort of keeping him honest up there. And at the end of the day, Frosted Over ran a lot better than this horse did last time.
Mike, I wonder if the 6 Avo Man is just a really prescient claim, because this is a horse who showed he could step on the synthetic. He won the plate trial in 2021. He was one of several horses I thought that had difficult trips in last year's Queen's Plate, and he returned off the layoff, and they just dangled him in for 40. We're going to watch Avo Man's race. He was 5-1 in that spot, and I thought all in all, considering the layoff, he ran an okay second. Does he have to improve as he steps up into graded stakes company? Sure. But as a lightly raced 4-year-old, there's no reason why he can't take a step forward. He was just a little bit green, I thought, once he made the lead here.
Yeah, that's probably true. Yeah, it's interesting. I feel like this is another one that could be just looked at as perhaps a pretty sharp claim. The flip side of that is, Dan, it just feels like a really bad sign that this horse came back off the layoff and they put him in for 40. That doesn't make a lot of sense to me, because he was actually pretty good as a 3-year-old.
Number 7 is Artie Storm. He's won 3 in a row. He just beat 3 of these common opponents in his seasonal debut, the Grade 2 Eclipse. He got a very nice trip in the Grade 2 Eclipse. We're going to watch that race right now. He's kind of quickened up entering the second turn. He's sitting in third and behind the speeds. And once Artie Storm gets out and into the clear, he's going to run down both Frosted Over, who has now taken over from Mighty Heart, and of course Mighty Heart. 95 Beyer speed figure. He's in career form, and in many ways, he's the horse to beat.
Yeah, I mean, that's probably true. He did run really well in here. He also, he just got an absolutely perfect trip in here. I guess you could give him a little credit just for keeping those 2 front runners in range all the way around the track, that he never let them get too far away. And then he closed them down at the end. I thought he ran well. And, he's another horse who I feel like if you just looked at him on paper, you might think a mile and an eighth doesn't do him any favors. I don't really feel like it's going to be a problem. When he got beaten that Ontario Derby last year, they just walked. That pace was so slow. I feel like he was badly compromised that day.
I think there are a couple of ways that you can look at the number 8 Special Forces. He's 7 years old now. Maybe you could say he's getting a little bit long in the tooth, but I think the other way you could look at him, especially at 15-1, is he's a bit dirtied up. Now, he didn't do any running last time out against Artie Storm, but it was his first race in 5.5 months. And the start 2 starts back, they had him go a mile and a half, which is likely just a little bit too far. You throw those races out, he was nothing but consistent.
It's very true. He's the kind of horse who I feel like the bigger the price he is, the more you probably want to try to maybe resurrect him a little bit. He has races that would make him really tough. Personally, I feel like all of those races came back in 2019 and then prior to that, even when he came back off the layoff, and it was a long layoff last year. He ran fine. He didn't quite seem like the same horse to me, though, Dan, and he was pretty bad last time.
Frosted over. We saw him run second to Artie Storm. He's likely to get a similar trip as last time in the Eclipse. We expect Mighty Heart to make the lead. I wouldn't be surprised if Frosted over is running second. He's proven going 1 mile and an eighth on the synthetic, winner of the Ontario Derby last year. I thought he ran well in the valedictory, going a long distance against a true stayer in Sir Winston. Last time out, I'm curious as to your take, because I really thought they quickened up entering the second turn. Frosted over, I think, went after Mighty Heart in earnest and maybe a little bit early, and maybe that softened him up just enough at the end.
Yeah, I think that's probably true. That's exactly how I looked at it, Dan. I mean, at the end of the day, you know, Mighty Heart was the horse to beat there, and Mighty Heart was on the lead, and so Frosted Over went and took the race to him around the second turn. He managed to outfinish that horse, but he couldn't hold off Artie Storm at the end. I still thought he ran really well. I liked a lot of his races last year. He's still relatively lightly raced, so you feel like you probably haven't even seen his best effort yet, Dan. I mean, I get it. Artie Storm is back in here, and Artie Storm just beat him. I feel like Frosted Over might be the horse to beat in here.
Before we get to our top selections, please click the subscribe button on the Daily Racing Form YouTube channel for all the latest DRFTV video offerings. Top pick time for the Dominion Day. As usual, Woodbine puts on a really nice show with their stakes races. This race does kick off at 20-cent pick 4. Talbea, wow performance from a visual last time out. Now she's got to take on the boys. You're getting your price.
Yeah, I want to take a shot with her, Dan. I know this is a tough spot for her, but she's beaten the boys before. I think the distance is a good one for her. If she can break, she's going to have to break. I feel like she could get the right trip in here, especially if those two favorites go after each other again. Maybe it sets up the right way for her.
The same triple, different order for us. I'm going with the 9 Frosted Over, hoping that he doesn't go after Mighty Heart as soon as he did in the most recent start. I think he can be patient sitting second, maybe get the jump on some of these closers, including the filly Talbea turning into the stretch. Good race. It's the Dominion Day on Friday. It's your DRF race of the day. Good luck.